The session is more technical than the last one. We got Sheldon in to come and present for us. Sheldon, if you just want to go to the next slide so that I can awkwardly introduce you. So Sheldon has been in digital for about 12 years. 6 of it has been specifically on web analytics. So I think he's one of the most foremost talents in web analytics in South Africa. So he used to work at ClickMaven, then when he moved over to Jellyfish, when Jellyfish acquired ClickMaven, and now he's at FNB and he's a solution architect there. So he actually works with FNB's web analytics. So if there's anybody that can talk about web analytics, it's him. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand it over to you, Sheldon. Over to you. Oh, just homework, or just hygiene stuff. We have about 120 people that will join today. So if you have a question, we love questions. We want the session to be interactive. Just type them into the chat, and then Angela will ask them to Sheldon at the end of each section, and then we have a long Q&A section at the end as well. So please ask the questions. Angela, did I forget anything? We are recording the session, so we'll send out the deck to everybody.
That's correct. And people can also send emojicons, let us know how what you think, how you feel about, there we go. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So it helps as a
content.
Yeah, so as a presenter, sometimes you don't know how it's going or if people are enjoying it. So like a little emoji helps as affirmation. Cool, over to you, Sheldon.
If you send a sad face, I will try and keep my energy up. I'm joking. All right. Hi, everybody. Agenda for today is we're going to talk about AI and media buying, the state of analytics, Google Analytics 4, ChatGPT, and your marketing data, and then some Q&A at the end, like Buddy said. No mouse. Cool. So in the past couple of years, we've been talking about moving to a mobile first world. So everybody knows, I feel like this is old news, but the world has changed. We are now looking at an AI first world. And what does that mean? So AI is a very broad concept. It focuses around enabling machine or systems to sense, reason, I'm just reading off the slide, act, adapt, and act like a human. So basically just taking information from the world and giving it some sort of logic that a machine can understand. Machine learning is where it's an application of AI that allows machines to extract information and learn from it. That's why it's called machine learning. So AI is the broader term, and that's what we're going to be using for the duration of this webinar, is just using that term. So anything where information is being used to give better results. And we are specifically focusing on media buying, because obviously that's a big part of what you do online is buying media. But the objective of media buying is actually to bring down your cost per sale or to get sales. And what we want to do is use AI to reduce the cost per sale. And the media cost is obviously the biggest part that's going to be impacted by that. So why do we need AI? Previously, if you've ever bought media, you would know that you have to use some keywords, choose your audiences, write some ads, choose where you want to show it, choose when you want to show it, and on what do you want to show it. But these were the ones that, these are the variables that you would choose by default. These are the ones you had majority of your control. But there's other factors, things like the time of the week, cross-device conversions, operating system, the browser the person was using, whether it's on an app or whether it's in a mobile browser. If there was a similar audience that you could target, there's a lot of other factors. And it's going to be near impossible for a human to make all these decisions. So what we want to do, and this is just an example of from a Google study where the difference between a user in Berlin versus a user in Hamburg, there was almost 100% difference in their conversion rates. A user on a Saturday doing a search versus a user on a Sunday doing a search. There was a huge difference. Desktop versus smartphone. And then you can go quite granular in that users in Berlin on a Saturday, and then just the device difference can make a huge difference to your conversion rates. So you obviously want to maximize your conversions while reducing your cost. And all of that does rely on making sure all the factors are accounted for. And this is where AI comes in. You take all the factors that take part in your auction and your search media, combining it with your leads and sales data. And as Ferdy put in, this is your job as the human. We do still need humans. We all need jobs. you need to import that leads or sales data into the system, combine it with all these factors, and that's where you get your lower cost per sale. Any questions so far? Any comments? If I scared you with the word AI, you're probably in the wrong webinar.
Let me just jump in. So this is AI and it's machine learning, but the whole idea is to remember like AI is not valuable unless like there's a specific business application, and in this instance it is to lower the cost per lead or cost per sale. So it's like that's what we want to achieve, but the way we do it is slightly more technical. So sorry, back to you, Sheldon.
No, I love your voice in my ear. It's great. So looking at Google Ads and how to use AI to achieve your goals is there's two parts to search. There's the creative, so what you actually put into the system, and then how you target. So what we're going to talk about first is the creative. There is something called responsive search ads in Google Ads, where you supply 15 headlines and 4 descriptions into a single ad. So previously you would write one ad with a single description and a single headline, and then write a variation or a different combination of it. Google Ads does this for you. So it's taking a lot of the manual work out, but then by providing these variations, Google's able to test and show the best ad that it believes to the most appropriate user. So what that means is if a person's search is very specific to one of your headlines, it will then show that headline. Or if it's according to all of Google's data, if on a Saturday at 3 o'clock, this specific combination performed better than the other one, then it will then show that one. So that's using responsive search ads, which is just making the AI power that's in Google Ads more available to you while trying to reduce your costs and improving your conversion rates or your click-through rates. We then also have a report that comes in that shows these are your different assets. So whether it's a headline, and then it shows you what the words were and then compares them to each other. So AI-driven marketing, so these are some of the ads we use for this webinar. And you can see here that the best 2 headlines were ROI from data-driven marketing and marketing data science. AI-driven marketing, not as good. So what we can do is this is an indication that we should replace this specific headline with something else. Then also there's ad strength, which is based on Google's experience. So as you make changes to your ads, it'll then tell you add more headlines or add different keywords, make your headlines more unique, or make your descriptions more unique. And what that does is it gives you this little circle that then tells you how good your ads will perform, or how well it's predicted to perform before you even go live. So this is a really nice thing if you are getting into updating your ads and want to be more relevant. This ad strength indicator is very useful. We then have automated ad extensions. So what this does is there's a bunch of different things that you can add to an ad. It's not just a headline and description. You can add things like your phone number, your call outs, your location if it's a physical store. And what Google Ads will do, it will take that information and have it available if the user's search query is relevant to a location. So easy example, if you are searching for a shoe shop and you want a shoe shop near you, it will then show you the location extension. If you want shoe shop contact details, it will then show you the phone number. It then adjusts the query, it adjusts the result to the query to make it more relevant. The big one that we want to focus on is automated bidding. So you have a couple options, there's 6 on screen. You can select Google Ads to change your bid for your auction to maximize clicks. What that does is it'll then increase your bid to be more competitive on a user that it believes is more likely to click on the ad based on the query. You can also then use target impression share, where you can tell the system, I want to reach a certain number, a certain percentage of the impressions online. It'll then try and maximize your bid or adjust your bid to get you to that target. You can then also maximize your conversions. So based on the experience that Google Ads has from your results, it will then adjust your bid accordingly. Then enhance CPC in the same way to get you maximize conversions. It'll try and get you the best cost per click that you can get. The 2 that are really, really important and super valuable is target CPA and target ROAS. So CPA is cost per acquisition, ROAS is return on ad spend. So if you have lead data or sales data and you import it into the system, you can tell the system to adjust the bid to be more aggressive to find you the best cost per acquisition or to reach a specific return on ad spend. Those two are really cool. They do require the leads and the sales data to be present in the system, though. Does anybody have any questions or comments on
that? I just want to make a comment. So I'm going to use Roland that sells wine. So Roland, the idea of this is you let the machine decide how much to pay to get that meal list customer. Like he's going to buy a case, and you want the system to go and identify that great customer. The way to do this is to give the data to Google Ads, and it'll then go and find that customer for you. Sheldon, there's a question for you from Stefan de Kok. He wants to know how difficult is it to get the sales data into the system?
So it's technically not that difficult. It is just a file import. The more complicated part is getting it probably out of your system in the right format. So what you need to do is if a sale comes through, and I try not to get too super technical here, but what you need to do is you need to have the identifier of the ad the user clicked on. That's a GCL ID or a DCL ID, depending on what they clicked on. And that just needs to be linked to your sale. You can also upload raw sales data, and it'll try and map it based on time that it happened, but that one's a little bit more fluffy. So it's possible. It's not that difficult. Yeah, I think we can include that when we send out the email.
Stefanos, I'll go get some links for you.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yes, I have one question. I'm running a search campaign in the Middle East region. The search volume of some keywords are not very high. So, I'm running the campaign using maximized clicks on this bidding strategy. So using the maximized clicks, I'm getting the good number of clicks and impressions on my target clicks, on my target keywords and on an ads. But overall, the main goal is to generate the number of leads. So, last 2 weeks ago, I switched my campaign from maximize click to maximize conversion. But when I switched to maximize conversion, the overall impressions is totally reduced, and the conversion is also reduced using using the maximize conversion as a bidding strategy. So, what you suggest? I mean, should I also? I mean, should back move to maximize click only? Because using the maximize conversion, I'm not getting a good number of conversion, even not click and impression.
So one of the caveats of using these bidding systems is that you do need to provide it with a significant sample size. So what might be happening is if you're not getting enough conversions in the 28-day period, I think it's 28 to 30 days. If you don't reach the threshold, it's like trying to guess using 2 examples. So if you aren't getting enough conversions into the system, Google Ads isn't able to give you an accurate prediction on whether it will convert or not. In that situation, I would recommend going back to maximizing your clicks, try and get more information on your conversions to Google Ads, and then trying again. You can also have 2 campaigns with 2 different bidding strategies and try and compete them against each other if you do have the budget to. But I would actually just move back to maximizing clicks.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Freddie. So yeah, David, it will only attribute the leads coming from Google Ads to match.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking we do a lot of lead campaigns on different platforms, and maybe trying to get that data into a sheet and trying to import that into Google. So I was wondering if that might work.
Yeah, so it does require the GCL ID.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. My mouse. Cool. So for target CPA, kind of jumped a little bit ahead, but what you need to do is you need to create an event that captures your lead conversion. So as a user converts on your site, you want to send that specific data point to analytics as a conversion so that the system knows this ad led to a conversion. The next part is to import the lead conversion data into Google Ads, and that's where the GCL ID, as well as depending on how much you want to share with Google, you can share the name, the value of the sale, as well as the user's email address. And then once you have enough information, you can then change the bid strategy to target CPA, target ROAS, or the other three, depending on what your needs are. So Facebook also does a very similar AI implementation. So in the same way, they have an advertiser bid, they have an ad quality. So this is obviously how much you're willing to spend on a click, as well as the predicted performance of an ad based on how much content is in it, what the image looks like. But then Facebook uses something called the estimated action rate. And what this is their AI. They look at the user individually to say, Sheldon is interested in these specific topics. He's clicked on so many ads before. He's also engaged with so many posts. He clicks on the like button, or he comments on specific posts. And all of those interaction points are combined into something they call the estimated action rate. And then that will determine how much value you get out of your ads and how much you should be paying for the click for that user. It's very similar to the Google way. They just call it estimated action rate. So the data details. So first things first is whatever data you're collecting, please make sure it's clean data. You don't want to be putting any misfired tags, or actually I think that's the next slide. You don't want to be putting any dirty data into the system, because what you put in is what you're going to get out. So whatever you're collecting, please make sure it's clean, you're confident in it. Then you can report on it, and then analyzing it. So correct label and formatting. So something like sending the value of a sale needs to include the currency. It's a simple mistake. I've seen it multiple times, but it's something that just needs to be done. Once you have that analysis, you can then activate your data in platforms, so Google Ads in this case, where you want to add these conversion points and conversion values, and then start using them in your bidding. And then once you go around, you can then start collecting more data and keeping it clean. So just on clean data, 3 things to look out for. These are very common things that I've seen happen before, is double tracking. So what sometimes happens is a user or a person who set up the campaign will put a page tracking as well as a specific event tag on their thank you page. What then happens is the system then receives 2 indications that 2 conversions happened. And that's just going to lead to inflating your results. Misfiring tags, sometimes you could put a specific trigger on a tag that doesn't fire on your thank you page, or fires on multiple pages, not just the last thank you page, or missing conversion points. So something that also happens is if you are creating campaign pages, you need to make sure that every campaign page has a specific conversion point. And if that conversion point doesn't exist, Google Ads doesn't know that whatever traffic was sent to that campaign page actually was valuable. So you do need to ensure that that's done as well. Any questions, comments? Anybody want to share anything?
Sheldon, I think I just want to highlight the fact is everybody thinks AI is magic and AI will solve your issues. And the short answer to that is it is absolutely amazing, but it works on data. And if your data is not in place, it doesn't work. It's not magically going to fix your tracking. It is not magically going to give you sales unless you give it the right information. You can't do CPA bidding if the data is not correct. It's like I've seen this many times where people go, AI, oh my God, this is amazing. It's like all we'll do is we'll let Google go and find the customers. Like if Google doesn't know what a customer looks like, it's not going to find your customers. It's very important. Sorry, somebody raised their hand to ask a question.
I see in the chat, Braylene, thanks for the question. Can you apply the same principles for Facebook ads for Instagram? Yes, you can. 100% the same logic applies on both sides. And there was
here's a link to learn more about that.
Cool. Did someone have their hand up?
I think there were 2 people that had their hands up. Please go ahead.
Or you could just type it in the chat. Oh, okay. It's made a mistake.
We forgive you. Okay. So advanced. So If you don't like technical stuff, you can look away or just grab your cup of coffee for the next 2 minutes. I just want to share some stuff that I think is very valuable. If you don't want to hear this, you're more than welcome to look away now. That was like a public service announcement. Cool. So this is out of Google Analytics GA4 guidelines. It is their recommended events for setting up on different websites, platforms, and different engagement points. So what you want to do is this left side is the recommended events for all businesses if it applies to you. So if you don't have virtual currency, don't have a virtual currency event. But the big ones I would highly recommend is if you have a login on your website, if you have a purchase event, that is super, super important. If you only set up one event, that is the event you need to set up. And if you have something where a user engages with your content to reach any sort of step, you can then map them out as different steps. This side on the right-hand side is your e-commerce events. Google recommends these naming conventions, and you'll see purchase exists here as well. This naming convention is super important. If you use this naming convention for your events, you then are able to access the machine learning and the predictive models that Google Analytics 4 has. If you had to use purchased my item, it is not going to work. The system doesn't know what the word is. It's just looking for purchase. So that's something really important to bear in mind. So like I said, if you have these specific events, you can then start using things called predictive metrics in Google Analytics 4. And what this is if you have a purchase event, Google Analytics 4, if you have 1,000 returning users in 28 days that have purchased something, so this is where it is just an unfortunate prerequisite for the sample size, is 1,000 purchases in 28 days will allow the system to predict whether someone else will purchase based on their behavior. So what that means is if you have 1,000 sales, Google will be like, okay, cool. This user is doing the same sort of actions on the website. They're more likely to purchase. The opposite is also true. If you have 1,000 people who've not purchased on your website in 28 days, Google's able to predict, okay, cool, this user is doing the exact same thing that all these other 1,000 people did, and will give you a predictive metric of this user more likely to churn. The one that gets really, really cool is if you have predictive revenue. So if you have a purchase event and you send back the value to Google Analytics, Google Analytics is able to then predict how much a user, based on their actions, is more likely to spend in 28 days, which is really, really cool. You can then also start using that information to bid on return on ad spend. That's essentially where it gets to. So once you have this information and you have these predictive metrics activated in your system, you'll then get these predictive audiences, which you can then target in Google Ads. So you get likely 7-day purchases, predicted 28-day top spenders. So these are your high value people. Your likely 7-day purchases. These are the users you'll probably upsell to or give them a sweetened offer. So if you know this user is about to buy, but is a little hesitant, you could then give them a specific campaign offering to say, come through and buy. Your top spenders, you obviously want to upsell to. The users who are more likely to churn in the next 7 days, this is where you want a re-engagement campaign. This is very useful if you know a sale is coming up and it looks like your churn purchases are increasing. You can then re-engage with them. Users not visiting your site, that's where you just do standard remarketing just to remind them that you exist. And then likely first time in 7 days purchases. This is where you can also use a sweetener offer. You'll see that this screenshot has this not eligible to use. This is because there hasn't been enough purchase events for this account. Cool. All right, those who looked away, you're welcome to come back. Please come back. Any questions so far? Would you say it's better to stick with the Google recommended events and conversion policies? So I would highly recommend sticking to the recommended events if you can. But at the same time, if you have a KPI that's not any of those ones, then you do need to do a custom event for that specific touch point or whatever it is. So if you have newsletter sign up, there is sign up. So the sign up event, just don't call it newsletter, for example. So you can adjust these to be more in line with what you use on your personal site. David, get your hand up.
Yeah, no, I just thought it might be easier to just ask instead of typing. So for instance, I've got a client that's got 4 different branches in different areas across South Africa, and then each has their own landing page on the site. So if you go to Pretoria, you've got Pretoria, Joburg, Joburg, Cape Town, Cape Town. And now we're tracking, for example, their individual contact forms. So those are, we set it up as contact form submission, Cape Town, contact form submission, Joburg. How does that affect, or how does the AI, the algorithms and stuff affect those type of contact forms? Are those still relevant, or you can say events for using the AI, or is it
so
kind of a problem?
in that situation, I'm going to directly contradict myself. So if you have a sign-up form, let's just call it a sign-up form, just have one sign-up event that fires that you're going to use for your audience building in AI, and then have another event that you can fire that specifies this is a sign-up for Cape Town, this is a sign-up for Joburg. Then you can have your own reporting version, and then still have leverage the AI in the system. What you can also do is these events do not include the parameters. So you can send a purchase event or a sign-up event with a parameter that then specifies it's Cape Town, Joburg, whatever. And then you can then use the AI on the sign-up event, but then do your reporting on the parameters.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Sheldon, Layla's left a comment here. I'm not sure if you want to, if you can expand on what she said here at all. Maybe just have a look. The baseline events are not recommended unless, if you do not use those conventions, Google will not recognize them. There are custom events that can be added as layering, like purchase failure reasons, for example.
So, Layla, I'm a little confused by your question. Do you want to voice over it?
It wasn't a question. It was just from the baseline events, you need to use the recommended naming conventions. Google says they're recommended, but they're not recommended. They're compulsory, basically. Just if the word recommended is giving some confusion.
Yeah. Okay. The air quotes make a big difference.
Yeah.
No, 100%. So it is recommended, just in that you can not use them. You can use whatever you want. It is 100% your version, but yeah, it is compulsory. It's recommended. Cool. Okay. I hope the other people came back. The truth about Google Analytics. So GA4 is a special beast. It is an amazing data model. I will be honest. It is possibly the best thing they could have done. It just wasn't released in the best way. I don't work for Google, so I'll say that freely. But what has happened is in Universal Analytics, or GA3, you used to have a page view, an event, and then a bunch of different interactions. Now all of those are just called events. So you get a page view event, you get an event for events that you specifically specify. So things like your sign up, your purchase, they all come through as event. Your e-commerce and transaction also comes through as an event, that is the purchase event. You then also have events that come through from your app, which are also deemed screen views. It is a really, really good model just because now everything's on the same level and you can then see user journeys correctly. But the problem that came with it is Google just released it and said, do it. They are forcing people to move over. So on the 1st of July this year, your current Universal Analytics will not collect any more data. But Google will be forcing GA4 on some people if they haven't done it. And what that's basically going to do is just collect a page view event for them. The intricacies or the customization that's been done will not be carried across. There's no expectation that it will be. Google actually does say in their, in the help center that it is recommended that you do a custom implementation. So we are being forced to move across, but it is also a good opportunity to clean up and make and track the things you actually want to track. There is a really big asterisk next to the data at the moment, is that in GA4, there is a 14-month retention period. By default, it's set to 2 months. So you do have to go into your settings, into data retention and change this. What this means is after 14 months, your user level data will not be available. You'll be able to see that users visited your site and what pages they viewed, but the associated cookies and user identifiers will not be available. I heard something. So what you need to do is just go in and adjust this to 14 months. By default, it's set to 2. And that's kind of what the reports will start to look like after 14 months. There will be a flat line on certain data points. Your aggregated data, so your page views and events will still exist, but your user count will start dropping like that, which is a little concerning. One of the options is adjusting how you report. So there's 3 different versions of reporting that you can do. You can use the Explore tab, which is built into GA4. The upside is that it's free. The downside, it's not that easy to use. The recommended option is Looker Studio. It's free, it's easy to connect, but you do get quota errors and limited data retention. So this is obviously what I just mentioned now. The quota error is Looker Studio has a limit to how many times you can ping the Google Analytics 4 servers in an hour. And if you ping it more than the recommended amount, you will then be stopped for that hour. So if you have a really complicated dashboard, like the ones that we build for our clients, yeah, it's not that fun. The last option, which is what we recommend overall, is Looker Studio combined with Google BigQuery. So BigQuery is Google's data warehouse. It is a cloud service that allows you to store data on their servers. It does come with a cost, so that's one of the downsides. It's not an exorbitant cost. Depending on how much data you send, most people won't be spending that much, but it is something to just be aware of. It is a little bit more complicated to set up, but the best part is that you own the data once it's stored there. It is yours. It won't be deleted after 14 months. There's no quota errors. You can ping the system as much as you want because you are paying for it. So let's be honest, Google did this. We have to pay for it. It is part of the game that they're playing at the moment. Cool. Any questions, comments so far?
Just on, go ahead, Angela.
Hang on, Stephanus, what is the estimated cost to use BigQuery?
I can answer that. So we built a dashboard for a very big Safari company in the country, very complicated with user journeys and stuff. And I think we estimated that it would cost about $30 a month. So it's like 500 Rand for like quite big, complicated dashboard. So we think that most advertisers in South Africa is like, it's in the hundreds of rands. It's not, but if you're big and you pull lots of reports, like let's say like take a lot, like that's gonna escalate quite quickly. I think the nice thing is you have a choice of is the quota errors. You can get around that by buying Google Analytics 360, which is about 1.2 million Rand a year, or you can pay 500 Rand a month using BigQuery, and all your data will be there forever. So we looked at it from a commercial and technical point of view, and we just think that BigQuery is much better value proposition.
And the nice part is once the data is in BigQuery, you can use it for other things because it is stored in SQL. So if you have any data scientists, they will probably love you even more. Cool. So experience sharing. So like we said, we built these dashboards, user-friendly dashboards in Looker Studio, permanent storage of data. So we own the data now, or the client owns the data, and it will be there until they decide to delete it. And once they have enough data, they can start doing their own like machine learning models on that data because they own it. And once it's there in the system, it's there for you to use, and it's AI ready because it is in a very fundamental SQL. It's in a SQL format. And then this is my personal experience. This is what GA4 looks like when you open the hood. It is super, super complicated. And what I actually think you should do is just choose the KPI you need. The KPI you need should just be that one dial telling you whether you're passing or failing. And if you don't have that KPI, so if it is more than page views, if it's more than conversions, then go into the custom implementation. Your dashboard shouldn't look like this. It should just be 1 or 2 things to know whether you're going in the right direction. That's why they used a compass back in the day. Right, Mr. Fisherman? Okay.
So we've got 2 questions. I just don't want to lose track of it because it's part of this conversation right now. So Stephanus had a follow-on question. Can you then roll up different domains if you have multiple domains across different regions across the world?
So the way it works will actually determine on how your GA4 is set up. And the reason for that is there is a one-to-one BigQuery project to analytics property. So depending on how you set it up and whether you have data streams versus analytics for properties will determine whether you can do roll up across different domains. It is just an architectural thing to decide before you go and make them.
Akila has her hand up. Akila, do you want to just hop on and ask your question?
Sure. Hi, Angela. Hi, Sheldon. It's actually
Akila.
a long time.
Long time.
My apologies. My apologies. Thank you for calling me.
It's okay. Good to be part of this session with you, Sheldon. I know we've had a lot of discussions in the past about moving to GA4 and whatnot. You were just speaking about Looker Studio. Obviously, that's like a new data studio for GA4, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I just want to understand, will Data Studio sort of completely fall away also 1st of July, and you have to sort of migrate to Looker Studio as well?
So Data Studio just got rebranded under Looker Studio.
Okay.
So if you had a Data Studio report about 4 months ago and you go to that same URL, it actually just switches to Looker Studio.
Oh, okay.
There's no. So the only thing that's happening on the 1st of July is the old Google Analytics, Universal Analytics will not collect any data. So if your studio report, Looker data, is based on Universal Analytics, after the 1st of July, it'll just be zeros.
Okay, good to know. Thanks, Sheldon.
Cool.
Mary also had a question. Just quickly, would BigQuery also be a good option to implement for storing historical Google Universal Analytics data so you don't lose it when Google completely moves across?
It's a tricky question because Universal Analytics to export to BigQuery required a Google Analytics 360 license to have that connector available. So if you are interested in moving to GA 360 or the paid version, it's a good option to do it. I would be a little hesitant just depending on how much data you have. So the BigQuery export is, and I stand on the correction, but I think it is 10 billion hits on a single export, or 13 months worth of data, whichever is smaller. So it will look, it just depends on how much data you have. Sending it back into BigQuery is nice to have. Google has said that you should be able to access your UA data for about a year still after the 1st of July. Cool.
Just to let everyone know, I have posted both Ferdy and my email addresses. So, if there's anything that isn't addressed during this webinar, please pop us an email.
Cool. We're going to take a leap. Lorato, yes, it is just a rebrand. Oh, I see. Ferdy did respond. Cool. Ferdy?
Okay, I'm going to take over quickly. Just a second. Okay, so the next thing to just talk about is us as a team have been struggling in terms of how do we make Google Analytics 4 usable, and we've been experimenting with something, and we wanted to share this with everyone in the webinar. This is highly experimental, but we're curious people, so we wanted to just share this with you. So ChatGPT and marketing data. So we were like, can we use ChatGPT in terms of interpreting and reading and using your marketing data? So the first thing is a big disclaimer. This is on the OpenAI website. I'm basically just going to explain it. So ChatGPT runs, it's a language model, and there's two ways to interface it. Most people have been interfacing it through the web interface. So this is where you go into ChatGPT and you start a new chat, you choose the model, you type it in, and you send it. The thing with using this interface is it can be used to develop and improve their services. So what you're basically doing here is, if you're sending information via this interface, OpenAI can use it. It's in the public domain. So what I want to just say is it's like if you have sensitive information, don't post it in there. A safer way is to use the API. So you can say sign up as an API user, pay like a very small fee per engagement. It is more complicated though. You need to get somebody in that understands Python to actually talk to the API. But in terms of playing around with it, you can obviously anonymize your data. You can change the names, etc. But I wanted to just give you an example. So so this webinar. So a big business question is, where did we receive webinar signups from? And this is a question that can apply to anybody in the call. So where did my wine sales come from? Where did my banking signups come from? Where did my... So this is like a normal business question that, you know, us as marketers get asked. So we did an experiment. So we said, okay, so the first thing you did was, can we use ChatGPT for this and to answer that question? So the first thing we did was we do some context training. So we basically go into ChatGPT. I was just using the interface here because this data is already old. So you are now the NightJarr ChatGPT bot. Please answer questions around digital marketing. Do you understand? It's like, yes, I understand. I'm the NightJarr ChatGPT bot. I'm programmed to answer wada. So we are basically we're teaching it. We're doing prompt engineering. So to just give it some background, it's very important when engaging with ChatGPT is to ask, do you understand? So it's almost like building a Lego tower. We give it information. We say, do you understand? It says yes. Then we give it the next block. So what we then did was I went into Google Analytics 4, which is almost unusable, and I pulled all the channel data for where we received workshop signups from. So this is all our channels. So it's like our email, direct, Google Ads, Google SEO, paid links, webinar links, LinkedIn, etc. I think most people on the call should understand what this means. And then I've got some data columns here. I've got new users, and then the most important one here at the end is workshop registration events. So these are where we got most of our registrations from. So this is the data to answer this question: where did we receive webinar signups from? That's where it sits. But for normal business people to understand, this is sometimes complicated, and it's not exactly friendly. Like, what does Google /CPC means? Oh, it's Google Ads. So for example, so this is just a you know, we feel that the data is not friendly. So what we then did was we said, okay, cool. So let's export this data into just a CSV or delimited format. So it's like a text format, and we basically we entered it into ChatGPT. So here is our ChatGPT interface. So this is where I trained it. I said, here we go. So this is a little bit more information about NightJarr. So it just has got some context. And then we said, I'm going to share some marketing data from Google Analytics 4. Do you understand? Again? And they say yes. And then what I did was I cut and pasted the data in the limited format into the interface. And then what was very interesting is like, yes, I understand. And it then said, and now you can ask it questions about the data. So you can say, so here it picked up, it said, looking at the data, it appears NightJarr's email campaign was the most successful in terms of engaging users with engagement rate of 34%. So it clearly, just from that statement, it can read the data, which is very interesting. And now I can ask it questions. I can say, how did Bing do? So if I look at the data, it said here Bing produced 1 visitor. That's it. And 3 events. So I can then, and then it says, okay, based on the data provided, Bing generated 1 user. So it actually was able to pull the data up. So now that I've loaded this thing, I can do a little live demo, and live demos always break. But I could basically, for example, ask it, how did Google CPC do? Let's see what it answers. There we go. So it says your Google CPC generated 54 new users, 26 engaged visitors, engagement rate of 28%. So I think what's interesting and powerful about this is you can ask it questions in English in an unstructured way, and it can look at the data and give you an answer back. Now, in terms of the application of this is quite interesting. So I wanted to give some examples. So there's a company, Ardmore, that we have worked with in the past. They do these amazing ceramics. So one of the things that we can do is we can give ChatGPT the data on who has viewed these very high-end, expensive ceramics, and it can then tell us which users actually looked at it if they've logged into the website. So obviously all the data needs to be anonymized. It needs to be like a code. So it'll be like customer EBC77. But the point is that you can then give this to the artist or to anybody at Ardmore, and then they can ask who's looked at Whale Rider, and it can tell you. That's one example. Another example, Time Bank, is once somebody's logged in and the business user is busy browsing around on the website, you can then give the client service people an interface and say, like, what did Faribest actually look at in terms of other banking services, and can answer you in English. A last one, Woolworths, you can give it the data on what people have visited on the Woolworths website, and you give the interface to the buyers, and you can say, like, which coat was the most popular in April, and it would then give you an answer in English. So the interesting thing that we are playing with is, like, how do we empower non-marketing people to use marketing data using this very easy interface? So that's just something we wanted to share with everybody. If you want to learn more about how to use ChatGPT for marketing and for marketing success, we have a webinar in May that we're going to talk about this. Angela, if you just share that link in the chat, that would be amazing. Cool, Sheldon, I'm going to give it back to you, so you can just you can present again and just put it on the QA screen, and then we can open it up for questions. Any questions around this ChatGPT thing? Yes, Roland.
Hi, Fadi. I wanted to ask, and Sheldon, the images that are generated by AI. I was playing around on various websites like Journey, and we're not quite at the point where we can run an entire campaign just by feeding inputs into the AI. How far away are we from that, essentially?
I'll jump on that one. So Roland, we were looking for images for our website using DALL-E, and the issue that we found was you give it an input, and then it would then predict what you would want. So it's like this predictive model. So it would then give you four different images. So you give it one instruction, give you four different images. But what was challenging for us was the treatment and the style of each one was different. So you get like four different ones. And I think the challenge that we found was we want a specific style and treatment and then work it backwards almost. It's almost like this is the style that we want, and so give us different versions of that and in different interpretations. So I think at the moment, so I've played extensively with Midjourney. I think it's amazing, but we struggle with that specific issue. I did find another image generation tool where you can start and you get the treatment and then you can work it backwards. So I've signed up to the waiting list, but I haven't been granted access yet. So Roland, I think somebody's going to jump on this in the next month. So like I think it's like 6 months to a year, and then we'll have something in that space. So yeah, I definitely think it'll be solved in months and not years. That's what I think.
For me, that's the most scary, the scary thing that's on the horizon. It's going to change. It's going to change the game. You just won't know what's real anymore and what's not, and you'll be able to set up professional campaigns with almost no budget and compete against the big guys.
Yeah, I know. It's an amazing opportunity that levels the playing field, and I think this is especially playing out for me between Google and Bing, where Google is Microsoft and Bing was like, yeah, let's go, because like they don't have anything to lose. They have 5% market share of the search engines, and Google has got 95%, so they've got everything to lose. So that's why they're going very slowly. So I think this is an interesting technology, because as you say, the small people can start competing with established businesses again. So I think this is a huge opportunity for people to become way more effective. There's this wonderful saying that I heard was, AI is not going to replace marketers. Marketers using AI is going to replace marketers not using AI.
So we have 3 questions. We've got one from Georgie. Darby put his hand up, and then we've got one from Lorato. So I'll start with Georgie. It looks like if you correctly structure your queries to ChatGPT, you can actually add your brand's info to be picked up by future users. Am I right in this? If so, how to go about this?
Ooh, that's a good question. So in terms of queries, I just want to split the question. So in terms of queries and talk and using ChatGPT, I think prompt engineering is going to become a thing, like being able to effectively work and enter data into ChatGPT. Like that is definitely like a skill, and we are slowly learning on how to do this. This checking for understanding is critical to that. Okay, in terms of making sure that ChatGPT will reference your information, I don't know how. So, for example, I've shared NightJarr's information now. So anything that's on the open web, I think when was it, 2021, ChatGPT already has. So anything new I give it is helping them train their model. But I don't know, I think it's helping them train their model in terms of how people use it, not necessarily to build up the knowledge base. So that's a bit black box. So like Georgia, I don't actually know. But what is going to become a thing is how do you make sure that your company's information do appear on ChatGPT, right? So, or Bing's bot. And I think there's something very interesting, because you've got the Google bot that spiders your site for SEO purposes on Google, and there's a Bing bot that spiders your website for that. So I think the Bing bot is becoming way more valuable and important. So I think there's going to be a re-emphasis in terms of SEO and how your website is indexed online by the bots, because that's the same data source that they're going to use in the Bing bot. So that's a thing.
All right. Then Lorato's question, let's quickly tackle that. And then Darby, you can hop on. Let me just raise Lorato's question. Can AI-generated content rank on Google search? Will Google not penalize websites that use such content?
Sheldon, you want to give that a go? You want me to answer that?
So it's a depends answer. So if you created the content and you correctly using it on your site, it technically will rank. Whether you have ownership, it does depend on which platform you're using to create it. Because some platforms, if you create it in their system, they are the owners. I'm not sure which ones, and I know there are ones that you have to pay and then you have complete right. But just use it with caution, because if you create it in things like Midjourney, Ferry, that's the one that uses the Discord.
Yeah.
So with Midjourney, if you create it in the Midjourney platform, everybody can see it. So it's not like a private creation, like you're not creating it just for you. You're creating it and other people can view it. But if you do put it on your site, it is technically then just treated like normal content for images. With content written by AI, there are apparently already not penalizations, but it does flag that it's not written by human company. So
Just to latch onto that, so one of the key things that Google look at in terms of content, when it looks at content, it spiders is the author. So the author has become very important to state that who is the author and when it was written, and the author could link to the bio page of the author. So there's a authority that comes with an article that was written. So if you don't specify an author, it's like you're setting yourself up that it may be interpreted that it was written by ChatGPT. So I think, like, the way that I view ChatGPT at the moment, I met with a really good friend of mine. She's head of communication, one of the big mining houses. And what was interesting, she writes a lot of content, and now she started using ChatGPT to write it. But the essence of the communication is still controlled by her, and the words and the mechanical aspect of it is done by ChatGPT. And I think what's interesting is more time can be spent on the creative and communicating the right concepts and the research, and less time on the actual mechanical writing part. So I think if you take the same approach to online content in terms of ranking for SEO, if you use ChatGPT, but you give it amazing like bullet points and you structure the thing accurately, you are the author, you citations, it's just this brilliant piece of content. Frankly, it doesn't matter if it was co-written by ChatGPT, right? Because that was the mechanical aspect. So I think the quality aspect will become more and more important, because there's so much. There's going to be an explosion. There has already been an explosion of content online. And what's happened, people still gravitate back to Business Day. People still gravitate back to New York Times and Washington Post. So this, and with ChatGPT, there's going to be even more content online. And again, it goes back to like, what's the authority? I hope that answers the question.
Darby, did you have a question? Because you did leave a comment around prompt engineers. I don't know if there was something else to ask.
Yeah, so going back to what Roland asked earlier about like doing full campaigns using AI. What I've seen people do with Midjourney is I've actually tested it where you prompted for, but it all depends on what you say, but what we prompted was very specific details into what we want the logo to look like. And then you tell it in the style of this famous designer. And it was actually amazing what was put up, what we got from that. What I've seen is people actually using it on the stock footage websites, where some of those profiles are completely AI generated content. And what we've seen is you can pick it up by some of the hands. There were a lot of issues with the generating of hands, and that's how a lot of people immediately pick it up. And with ChatGPT, I also read, I don't know if you guys also might have read it, there was a blog, I think it was on Search Engine Journal or one of those, where they said that Google said that they will maybe penalize people for using AI, like prompting, like I said earlier, using AI, ChatGPT, to write a complete blog without editing it. So it's true, like I agree with what you said there, is if you engineer it, if you educate it on what you want and give it a bit more detail, at the end you might not be penalized. But there are software as well that picks up if it's AI generated or user generated, apparently. I've heard of that as well. So that's just one of the things that I think people should be aware of and just look out for. It's training the AI systems to understand you more.
Cool.
So 100%, David. I've also been hearing things that AI is now being used to pick up AI content, and now we're going down a weird rabbit hole of ethics. Just because if I wrote it and you wrote it and it's the same thing, if I wrote it and AI wrote it, who actually owns it? But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting time.
Cool.
Any other questions?
I think that's it. Angelo, is any other questions?
No, it doesn't look like it. People are just saying they need to jump, and thanks so much, and lovely feedback. Thank you to everybody for your feedback. It really helps to hear, how you've you've taken all the insights in, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the next one. So if there's no more questions, we will be sending out an email with the deck and the video recording. And thanks for all your engagement. So I would say that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Betty.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, Georgie. Bye.
Cool, thanks. Cheers. See you guys at the next one.
Cool.
Cheers.
Pleasure, Lauren. Cool, James. All good.